faces of her friends. My father, Richard, the man who taught me how to ride a bike and balance a checkbook, simply stared down at his perfectly folded napkin, refusing to meet my gaze. His silence was the cruelest blow of all. It was a verdict. Guilty. My cousin Emily, who was more like a sister to me, started to protest. That's impossible, Aunt Diana. Alex would never. That's enough, Emily. My Uncle Thomas interrupted, his voice a stern command that silenced her immediately. Later that night, the performance was over. My father stood in the hallway, his face a cold, emotionless mask. Get out, he said. It wasn't a shout. It was a flat, dead command. Pack one bag. I want you gone in an hour. My mother stood beside him, her arms crossed, her expression a mixture of disappointment and disgust. I was a stain they needed to remove. As I walked past them to my room, the room in the house I was paying the mortgage on, I knew this wasn't just an argument. This was an excommunication. And as the full weight of their betrayal crashed down on me, a tiny, cold spark ignited in the pit of my stomach. It wasn't pain. It wasn't grief. It was the first flicker of a fire they would come to regret starting. The sound of the front door clicking shut behind me was unnervingly quiet. A soft punctuation mark at the end of a 28-year-long sentence. I stood on the driveway for a long moment, the single duffel bag at my feet feeling impossibly heavy. The familiar suburban street, with its identical houses and perfectly manicured lawns, looked like a movie set. A life I used to belong to, now just a backdrop. I forced myself not to look back at the house, not to search for a face in the window. I knew what I would see, or rather, what I wouldn't see. No remorse. No doubt. Just the cold certainty of my guilt in their eyes. I got in my car, a sensible four-door sedan that screamed financial analyst, and drove. My mind was a blizzard of questions and accusations, but my hands were steady on the wheel. I drove through the sleeping suburbs, past the parks where I played as a kid, and the high school where I graduated with honors. Every landmark was a ghost. There was only one place I could go, one person who wouldn't demand an explanation I didn't have. I pulled up to a modest 3-story apartment building on the other side of town, a world away from the manicured lawns and 2-car garages of my old life. I walked up to apartment 2B and knocked. The door opened to reveal my best friend, Mark. We'd known each other since college, where we bonded over late-night study sessions and cheap pizza. He was a graphic designer, a stark contrast to my world of numbers, but he was the most logical, level-headed person I knew. He took one look at my pale face, the duffel bag clutched in my hand, and his expression shifted from sleepy confusion to serious concern. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't ask why I was there at midnight. He just stepped aside. Guest room's open, he said, his voice a low, comforting rumble. He took the heavy bag from my nerveless fingers. Bed's made. You look like you could use a beer or something stronger. Stronger, I managed to croak, my throat tight. He nodded, disappearing into the kitchen. I sank onto his worn-out sofa, the springs groaning in protest. Mark returned with 2 glasses and a bottle of decent whiskey. He poured 2 fingers in each, handed one to me, and sat down in the armchair opposite me. We sat there for a long time. The only sounds were the clinking of ice and the distant hum of traffic. He didn't push. He didn't cry. He just provided a silent, unwavering sanctuary. His unspoken trust was the first breath of air in a room where I'd been suffocating. He was my only ally, the first citizen of a new country.